Wow, that was simply amazing, Ananya. Absolutely mesmerizing. What were you playing? But wait. Before you answer that, let me just go over and say hello to everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another special episode of the Jampot Adda. I hope you're as excited to be here as I am. Let me introduce our performer for the evening, the charming Ananya Sarkar, who has joined us all the way from UK. A woman of several talents. You already heard her play the Hawaiian guitar. But for more, let's go back to her. So Ananya, welcome to the Jampot Adda. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be with us today. And you know, it's got such an international vibe thanks to people like you who join us from different parts of the world. But coming back to this fascinating piece that you just played, what was that?
Thank you, Rupa, and thank you, Jampot Adda, for having me over. It's been an amazing journey of sorts so far. This year has been very different, I must say. And this piece was basically Rag Todi. This is a different kind of a rag in Indian classical, Hindustani classical music. It has a certain melancholy associated with it. Because of the kind of notes that I used, this is more of Komal notes that I used. And the reason I played this rag is because this year has been, not the best year that we would have experienced in our lives. There has been a lot of highs and lows, mostly lows. We have been confined to our homes. So I just thought, I'll just play a tribute to this year through this rag, and that's the reason I played this rag. The composition is by my Guruji, Shri Robin Mukherjee, and I've just kind of improvised it in my own style, and yeah, that's it.
That was lovely. Ananya, I know that apart from music, you have a lot of other hobbies and talents. Please tell us about them.
Okay, so I am a product manager by that's the profession, that's my day job. So my background is primarily engineering, and then I do the management side of things now. Apart from that, I had been introduced to music, like I just said. And there's something else that I did for a very long time, and that was public speaking. Now, public speaking is very close to me. I was part of Toastmasters International, and I kind of, towards the end of my career in Toastmasters International, I was representing my area, which was like, a significant part of the southern India. So it was quite a big experience for me, because I was able to deliver speeches in front of 5,000 people, 10,000 people. And being critically evaluated for my speeches gave me a lot of confidence in my day-to-day work. So that is one. Apart from that, I have also started my own venture. It's a journey-based music platform, music learning platform called Harmoniverse. And yeah, it's something that I just started in May 2020, but it's picked up really well and it seems very promising at the moment.
That's wonderful. So I know you have a lot of dreams around Harmoniverse. So please share them with us.
Yeah, so Harmoniverse essentially was it's an Indian classical music learning platform primarily. Of course, we have now ventured into Western classical music as well. But the main focus has always been how do we make sure that Indian classical music is taught to the younger generation in a form, in a manner which they can appreciate. Because I live in the UK and I went around looking for good teachers for my son. And there were good teachers, but then most of them were teaching because they learned music when they were young and they just wanted to teach because there was nobody better available. So I really wanted to make sure that our teachers back in India our teachers back in India get an opportunity to deliver training to the international students. So the model basically works similar to how it works in the IT. Our teachers are based in India. We have online lessons, and this was not a response to COVID. This was done much before that. We just launched during COVID because it was the right time to do it. And our teachers are based in India and across the world. There is no bar, there is no barrier to learning, and it's very project and performance based. So for example, our guitar students are learning something on Mozart's 25th symphony. How do you apply that to an Indian rag? So we are one of our projects that we are doing is Rag Bhupali, a song which is based on Rag Bhupali but intertwined with Mozart's 25th symphony, which we also know as a Titan music.
Wow,
So it's that
that's
sort
really,
of thing.
yeah,
It's
that's
that sort of
interesting.
application-based learning, Otherwise, children get very bored when you teach them Sare Gama Padhanisa and various permutations and combinations around it. But when you try to inculcate music making in their minds, how do you compose? How do you dabble with different forms of music, with different genres? That is when the interest arises, and that's what we really want to, promote. So
That's
yeah, it's very
really
promising.
yeah, it does sound very fascinating, and I wish you luck in that.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, Ananya, what are you going to play for us now?
So I'm going to play a song called Zara Zara from Rehna Tere Dil Mein. It's a very special song because this was released when we were growing up, and yeah, it's one of my favorite songs. So I'm going to attempt playing it on the Indian slide guitar. I don't think anybody would have heard it on the Indian guitar.
Lovely, lovely. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome, Ananya. Simply fantastic. And one of my very, very favorite songs. And in that song lies the clue for our next guest for the evening. But wait, before we go into that, it's time to say goodbye to you, Ananya. Thank you so much for joining us, for taking out the time and playing such fabulous music for us. Uh, keep playing, keep spreading the joy and cheer.
Thank you so much, Rupa. Thanks to Jampot Adda. And looking forward to an interesting conversation and some interesting moments here.
Okay, and all the very best again.
Thank you. Bye.
And now it's time to meet a much awaited guest for the evening. I know none of you are interested in my buck, so let me quickly introduce him to you. Many of you will remember him as the handsome basketball player who made the girls go weak in their knees. Some of you will know him as the badmash boy who was always up to some mischief, while others remember him as Balaji, who was always right in front of every line for Saraswati Chanda collection or Holika ki Lakdi collection. That's how we know him. But the world knows him as the good-looking, hugely successful, versatile, the very talented actor R Madhavan. Yes, Apna Maddie, and he is here today with us. So let's go quickly. Hello and welcome Madhavan to this episode of Jampot Adda. This is a very special episode for us because you are in it, and we can only imagine how tight your schedule is, and yet you're here with us, and for that we are eternally grateful. We are honored and privileged to have you in our midst. And now that the formalities are over, I want to say I'm like super excited and super happy that you are here. So let's start from the very beginning, where it all began, from this beautiful place that binds us all together, the city of Jamshedpur. What are your earliest memories of Jamshedpur?
Well, thank you first of all for that really glowing introduction, Rupa. I'm very touched. It's always good to hear from your hometown, from a place that you were born and brought up in, and a place that has the deepest roots in your heart. I have been a complete Jamshedpur boy. I have lived it in its entirety. I think I've had the most awesome childhood possible during those times. And one of my earliest memories is how we used to live in this nice, cozy city where everybody knew everybody. I remember for me, the whole world consisted of people that I knew. I don't know if people from outside Jamshedpur can relate to that feeling, but either if you went to the club or you went to the market or you went to, your apartment or you went to the office or you went for a school picnic or an office get together or Dimna Lake, you always met people you knew. It was a smaller town then, obviously, but it just looked like a familiar, cozy little setting for a great place for you to grow up. In fact, I was often reminded about how we used to read these Enid Blyton books and how, they used to live in colonies with hedges, and dogs and small lanes and I think Jamshedpur then was an absolute replica of those small towns, except it had a lot of Indian people in it. You felt a sense of security. Nothing was you didn't really have to watch out for anything, except unfortunately the riots that used to happen when later on in the late 70s and early 80s. But that apart, there wasn't a cause for concern. People used to go to school on cycles. I remember, girls going all the way to Sacred Heart School, and we used to watch them go, on their cycles. And it didn't matter that it was which time of the day. It was a lot of safety. The kind of news that you hear today, you're only bringing up children in complete fear. But at that time, the sense of freedom that existed was absolutely marvelous. It is something that I wish I could give the children today. You learn to take care of yourself because everybody's parents were working. Most of them, at least my friends, the mothers used to be at home. Some of them. My mother was a working mother. But because both of them were working, my sister Devika and I had to fend for ourselves. And so didn't seem like a challenge for 13, 14-year-old kids to be alone at home or only in the veranda, because my mom and dad used to just keep the veranda open so that we didn't keep the door open and went off to play for the whole house. So, and it was cool. We had a dog. Yeah, we used to get into fights, get out of fights, learn how to swallow our ego and pride and make friends again, with people. I think my ability to deal with people, my intrapersonal skills were honed because of a place like Jamshedpur. It has really set up a foundation for largely the kind of person that I am today. And I'm more than remembering it fondly. I'm very grateful to the city, to the Tatas as a company who made that possible for us. At that age, what a great foresight on behalf of the Tatas to create such an amazing city that was a cauldron of cultures, of languages, of tradition, clothes. It gave me an idea of how the rest of India is, and for that I'm very grateful.
Yes, I agree. It was such an idyllic childhood. I mean, it was so beautiful, protected, and yet so cosmopolitan. It was really, I think all of us shared that bond for sure. So, which was your first family vehicle?
Oh, my dad. So at that time, Tata Steel were giving incentives for people to come to office in cars and scooters and stuff. So they used to give allowances if you had a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. So dad, being dad, said, I'm not going to waste that allowance. So he got a car from his senior, okay, from a much senior guy in the company. And our first car was a Studebaker. It was a 1948 Studebaker Champion, a blue color, vintage car that my dad got. We loved that car. The whole family used to just crowd into it, the dogs and all, and go for picnics to Dalma Hill, to Dimna Lake. We couldn't go up the Dalma Hill though, but Dimna, and then to all the places. And my dad really drove that car right up to Delhi and back once, and reliable, and the roads being what they were then. This is a great vehicle, and we all got our allowances from Tisco for that for that car. And my mom was one of those women who was a rarity because she used to drive. Very few women in Jamshedpur at that time knew how to drive a car. Mrs. Bhasin was there. She was not just a driver. She used to actually participate in rallies and be a crazy driver, who was also my mother's colleague and one of my godmothers, very amazing lady. And a few women that I knew who used to drive. My mother was one of them, I think.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too was one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so can you imagine in the early 80s, women driving around
Yes.
in Jamshedpur was not a big thing. You know what I'm saying? It was not a big thing. People used to look at women drivers in other cities and say, "Hey, ladki chala rahi hai yaar." But for us, it is like my mom used to drive. So those things I took for granted. You know, that is amazing. One of the things I took for granted amongst my childhood was the fact that the vacuum cleaner used to clean the road.
Yes.
You know, people in India don't believe we actually had that when we were
Yes.
growing up. But there used to be actually a vacuum cleaner cleaning the roads. What an amazing city.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it was
garbage
fantastic.
disposal was so ahead of its times. Garbage disposal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rupa, the best thing was we got the best of both worlds. You know, if you wanted to go to Dhatkadi and you wanted to go to other places and play with the people there and go and catch tadpoles and play gilli danda or the kind of games or kancha antol we used to call it at that time and phir lattu, all these things we used to
Hmm.
play with those guys. And then suddenly there was a sophisticated Victorian culture that also existed where you knew how to use your shrimp fork and salad fork and dinner
Right.
fork and went for formal parties and
Yeah, and to the club
it
and
was
all that.
in the
Yeah.
clubs. And also there was this whole computer era that the Tatas had. Then they had this Auric computers, I think, and they used to send those computers home for children to use it for every week. This is, I'm talking about 1970, early 80s, I think.
Really, it is. Yes.
And so imagine somebody who's learning how to play gilli danda and learning how the grassroots work, and then also getting to learn about computers, also getting to learn about Victorian culture at the same time, put in the cauldron of cultures from around the country. So you had the Biharis, the Punjabis, the Rajasthanis, the Gujaratis, everybody staying in one colony. It was amazing. The
Yes.
Bengalis, and and very slowly we forgot who was who and what was what, and we had our own culture, which is fabulous about Jamshedpur.
Yes. And you were quite basketball champ, is what I remember. So, any memories related to that?
I was actually quite notorious, to be true. But Badmash, that was my name. Because my parents were both working, it was automatically assumed that I had gone astray. And to a great extent, I don't blame them because I was quite a handful. But there was always a good intent behind what I was doing, and that used to get me into a lot of trouble. I remember playing basketball for my school. One of the incidences that happens, is fresh in my memory is we were in the semifinals or something, and it was a semi-final match. It was a very important match, and I had not gone to school because first of all, my academics wasn't something that everybody was proud of, especially me. And secondly, it wasn't up to the standard of a South Indian Brahmin Iyengar boy. So actually, it wasn't up to standard at all for anybody. It was really bad. But I had flunked from Loyola School, and I had to be taken admission into DBMS school now because my parents didn't want me to lose a year. I had flunked because of my ability to speak Hindi, read and write Hindi. So
And look where you've gone with that now.
can you believe that? The
Yeah.
irony of life. So
Yeah.
fail कर दिया दोनों ने मुझे. So and we had gone to a DBMS school, which took me up, and with open arms, and now I was representing DBMS in basketball, and we had a match in Loyola School, and it was a semi-finals. I forget against which school, and the finals would have been Loyola School and DBMS playing. It was a very important match, but I had fallen sick, mostly because I was afraid of my exam results. So I was very sick. I had fever. And my parents said, okay, don't go to school, stay at home and make sure you rest up. We'll take a 2 days break. But that evening was the match. And my friends came over and said, yeah, if you don't come, we're lost. You have to be there. You've been there throughout the match and you know how to tackle these guys. So what are we going to do? So because the fact that, I was being given so much importance, I started feeling better. So I said, hey, you know what? I'll see you guys at 3 o'clock. And my school was right opposite the golf course. So from my house. So I just had to cross the golf course, go there, and the match was about to begin. I remember getting into it. My friends were there, Ajay, Anup, and all these guys. And we played the match and we played very well. And I happened to do well that day and became the highest scorer for some reason. Maybe I should play all my games with a little bit of fever. That helps.
No fever now, not in the current times.
No, well,
No, no.
we shouldn't be afraid of this. I mean, we'll beat this. This is it's a life lesson, but we'll beat this too. But what I'm saying is, I came back home all sweaty. And because of the fact that now the exams are also coming, I became even more feverish. And my mother came to my room and she was okay and everything was fine. Till suddenly, 2 days later, my sister suddenly realized that there was a newspaper article in the local newspaper which talked about this match and how R Madhavan had outshone everybody by becoming the highest scorer, and they put a picture of mine on it. And my sister came home and, like all good sisters, first thing she went and told my mother, "Hey, you know that your son is in the papers, and everybody in my school is talking about him." So I said, "What?" My mother said, "What? When? Why?" And she saw it. She said, "No, no, no." Then she said, "What is this?" I said, "Ma, it's not me." Because the prints at that time, the photographs were not very clear. But then there was no turning back from there, because my sister went and brought the actual cutting, and it said R Madhavan from DBM school who played with these teams. And my mother said, "Explain yourself," and I got whacked. Unbelievably whacked on that day. I'm like, she lost complete trust. She didn't know whether to pat me on my back but for my parents it was agony, because this bloody younger boy was not getting good marks in mathematics and in physics and chemistry, and he is flunking here and there. So they were aghast. I don't think they saw the merit of my ability to play basketball then, but thankfully it all turned out okay.
So you had a huge fan following even at that time, and it continues, and it has just grown exponentially now. How did you handle that attention at that time, female attention, and how do you handle it today?
I don't know what I remember going to meeting a cricketer, and he was a celebrity. And I remember trying to take an autograph from him, and he gave me an autograph without looking at my face after I was waiting for 40 minutes. I didn't realize the importance. I was myself a 8-10-year-old kid or something like that. But the way he gave me the autograph and the way he, and I'm sure he had his own reasons. He must have been busy and tired after signing 300 autographs. Everybody was taking autographs from him. So he didn't quite look into my eyes or look at my face or acknowledge me. So I said, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to be the guy who enters the room and everybody will look at me, and I will sign autographs. And when I do that, anybody who takes autograph from me, I'll make them feel special. I remember, for some reason, that feeling being a very overwhelming part of my growing up. I don't know where it originated from and why it did, but excuse me, this coffee is a little not good. Anyway, so I remember having that overwhelming feeling with me for a long time. And somehow I think I manipulated my world around in a manner in which I, for some reason or the other, became somebody to get noticed when you enter the room. And I think God just said, "Tathastu," so be it. And so the fan following, I wouldn't say I had a fan following in Jamshedpur. I was notorious. Like I said, people knew who I was and didn't know how to quite trust me. I was one of those guys.
But you are and were a good-looking guy who's playing basketball. I mean, Jamshedpur, that was rockstar.
Well, it wasn't as overt as it is today. So there must have been a few giggles and, sly glances. But there wasn't, people didn't walk up to each other and say, "Hey, can I take you out for a date?" or "Dude, you're looking so sexy." That didn't happen those days. It was, if you got to dance with a girl and a school social, the 10th standard school social was the highlight of our life,
yeah.
of our juvenile testosterone-driven life. That was, so... and that didn't happen for me because I moved to DBMS. And then so that social also didn't happen for me. Of course, we went to a co-education school there, which was run by my mother as one of the managing committee. So I had to be really, really
careful.
A good boy there.
Behave well.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't, the fan following wasn't as overt as it is today. It's quite shocking what it is today. But then it was subtle. But I was the kind of guy that, parents used to say, "Stay away from." Like, "वो बदमाश लड़का है, उसके साथ दोस्ती मत करना."
No,
I've
but
heard
that
that many
charming
times.
smile and the twinkle in the eye, I don't think so.
I think that became popular now that I am famous, but I think at that time it was the grin of the devil.
Yeah, so if you were to rewind time to say 32 years back, and you had to take a girl out for a date in Jamshedpur, where would you take her?
Well, I could take her to United Club, or I could take her to the Beldy Club, or I could take her to the Golmuri Club.
But then everybody would know, right?
Yeah, I'm saying these are the only three places: Minnale, Dalma Hill, Jubilee Park. All these three clubs. You could go around. But the point is, see, the thing is, I have this problem, right? Taking a girl out was not considered a positive thing. It was at that time, it was like, oh, really? They already had, done everything and got kids as far as the rest of the world is concerned. So it was just in an innocent somebody taking out somebody and having a dinner. During our times, I think very conservative to a
Yes.
large degree, especially because it was only school. So this culture of ever transforming gentry in Jamshedpur constitutes to that lack of a deep culture. So what I mean by that is most people came, they did their jobs, they retired, and they went. And the children were born, they grew up, but once they crossed the 12th standard, most had to flee and go to some other part of the world to study. Some were lucky enough to stay back, and study in colleges, but it wasn't considered the most elitist of educational institutions at that time, the ones that were there in Jamshedpur. So you had to leave, except for XLRI, if you're lucky enough to come back. And my dad's dream was that I'll go do my engineering and do my management in XLRI, and we'll come back and stay in the same house that Tata Steel had provided us. That was his aim in life and a goal in his life. So going out with girls on a date was like, why are you not studying instead of that? That was,
yeah, it was such an academic atmosphere back there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think at that time, if you had evinced any, I don't know whether you did, but had you evinced interest in acting, I think it would have been frowned upon by your family. Mine would definitely have.
I think it happened to a lot, even after I became an actor. My parents, my father especially, couldn't quite accept it. He was like, he still thought I'm fooling around and I will eventually turn around and do my management in XLRI and then join the Tata Steel. He was giving Dr. J.J. Irani that impression till the very end, till one day Dr. Irani said, I believe your son is down. And my father said, yes, he is. What's he doing? Oh, he's doing, he's studying for his engineering, and I'm sure he'll. Then Dr. J.J. Irani apparently told him, I said, yeah, I believe Balaji is, and my pet name was Balaji. He says, he's a big television actor in Bombay. And my father is almost squirming. He's like, he's doing something on television right now. He said, hey, everybody in my family is a big fan and they really like so whenever Balaji comes, please bring him home. And this was being said by Dr. J.J. Irani, who, like the culture in Jamshedpur, as you all know,
right,
it's one of the most unique culture, okay, where every house will have Jamshedji Nausarwanji Tata's photo with a nice fresh mala in it, okay, and especially the South Indian households, it'll be close to the puja room also. Everybody had that photo. There was a sense of devotion to him. You know what I mean? And Tata job was considered to be the most elitist qualification ever, and they took care of their employees. And
absolutely,
it was loyalty beyond the realm of any logic that I could imagine.
Yeah,
okay?
and see, so many years later, we are still, I mean, look where you've reached and you're still talking about it. That's the kind of impact actually that the Tata.
Yeah, so the sense of loyalty was exactly. And
immense.
So the sense of loyalty was immense, right? And so now the top guy is telling them he's a big fan of my work. So suddenly my dad is like, you like what he's doing? I said, yes. So my dad calls me in Bombay, hey, get onto the train and come to Jamshedpur now. I want you to introduce you to I want you to go meet, the Irani uncle and say hi to him. He wants to meet you. I said, Papa, I'm shooting. I can't just take a train and come. And even if I come, I'm not coming in a train. I'll have to fly down. So he's like, oh, whatever. I think I never grew, for them, it was a moment of realization for my dad to know that, oh, you know what, he's doing something well on his own, so let him be.
And talking of trains, this is many years ago, and my memory fails me. You may or may not have just done a serial or so, and you were on VT station, and so was I, waiting for Gitanjali Express early in the morning, and there was not a soul on the platform because unearthly hours, and I had come from
right.
And because there was nobody else, and because you are Devika's brother, I really she was my batchmate in Ferguson, okay. And I thought to myself, jaake baat karun kya? And I guess you may have done a serial or so by that time. But then while I was still wondering, that whole Jamshedpur thing, ladkon se itna fat se jaake nahi baat karte the, right? So, but then the train arrived, and in all that hustle bustle, and now today, after so many years, I finally
I didn't have it all. Yeah, I mean, I think my life was also full of those, people that you were thought completely out of reach suddenly became your friends. You know how we used to look at Mr. Amitabh Bachchan from Jamshedpur. He was a superstar up in the skies, and God made it possible for me to actually get to know him personally, and I'm very fond of him, and he has the utmost fondness for me, so much so that it's his wish that comes to me exactly at 12:00 on every birthday. He'll be the first one to wish me. My wife tries to beat it, but he's the first one to wish me.
How
So
wonderful.
amazing, I mean, I've had a very blessed life. If I have to look back, there is nothing I could have engineered in my life to have brought me here the way I am. I'm so more than gratitude. There's an overwhelming sense of humility, and if people keep asking me how I did it and what was my success, I think the cause of my success. And if I honestly look back, I just can't define a path for anybody except that Jamshedpur taught me to respect human beings the way they are. Like we used to have our servants then, the domestic help, and they used to have children. We used to play with them. We used to
Yes.
play with the officers' kids. We used to play with the senior officers' kids. So we knew how to deal with every aspect of it. And one thing that I learned then very quickly is that everybody has their own skill sets. Nobody is actually less competitive than the other. The only thing lacking is the opportunity. So if you have to so I remember my mother used to say, "This guy is such a, he can sell sand to the sheikhs because he's such a charmer. Balaji will go there, and there'll be a line in the club to buy chips or pakoda or whatever." And I was the only guy who used to call the cooks and the people who were serving uncle, and with a lot of respect and a lot of like, "Uncle, how are you, sir? Uncle," and just okay, but bhai, aap kaise ho? Just having to talk to them and treat them more than just like waiters. So every time they saw me, I would be the first one to be served. And my mother said, "This guy is like a shrewd fellow." She actually was worried that I had so much of uh, control over the people that I was involved with. That lesson has been learned well and learned hard in Jamshedpur, and that served me very well in my path to where I am today.
Yes, I think those values from Jamshedpur and all those influences of, I mean, they reflect in how you are and how you behave even now. I mean, we don't hear of any controversy, or we don't, everybody speaks of you very affectionately and fondly. So I think that's a reflection of your roots, your upbringing, your, what your
Well, I
parents
think
did.
it's all credit to Jamshedpur. I grew up with everybody's help, because my parents used to work. My parents, of course, philosophies were strongly ingrained, but also all the things that I saw around me and how just respecting people for who they are, just giving them a kind ear or just, a pat on the shoulder. I used to see these done often by the Tata officers, by people in positions of power, and the grace that they showed to all their workers and juniors, by and large, was an exemplary act. So that became a foundation for me.
So have your wife and son ever visited Jamshedpur?
Oh yeah, of course. My
Yeah?
son, no, I don't think my son's visited, which is very sad because I would love for him to have a childhood like I did. But I don't think my son has had the ability to go and see where I was born and everything yet.
I
One of
think it
these
would
days,
be
maybe.
fascinating. Yes.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
But my
So,
wife has. She flew into Jamshedpur many times to patao my parents to make sure that there wasn't any jhamelas when we decided to get married.
and were there?
Oh no, not at all. I was very disappointed. My parents agreed. They liked her. So she'd done a job very well. So yeah,
So
I
nothing
thought
filmy
from
there.
no, actually there was something filmy. My parents agreed quickly, but my grandfather who had not spoken to his son for quite some time for not marrying within the exact community. Okay, and
So,
he was considered to be quite a difficult one to get approval from. So I told my dad, I said, please make sure that he you tell him, and I was going to get married anyway, so we have to see how to do it amicably. So my dad said, I'll write a letter to him and tell him. Then we decided, no, I should go and meet him and tell him. Then when we went and met him, he said, you call Sarita, your wife, and make her Devika's friend, and let's all stay in the house for some time before I tell him. So we did that. And then Then we decided to go out for a trip from Chennai to, and then my father said, I'll tell him as soon as I come back from the trip. Then my father said, I'll tell him after I go back to Jamshedpur, I'll write a letter. I'm like, Dad, come on. And then, so like all good South Indian families, before leaving the house, we have to fall at our grandparents' feet to take his blessing. My mom and dad, took the Ashirvadam. And then Devika and me, we were about to fall on his feet. My father and my grandfather in full filmy style and in Hindi, mind you, he's a Tamilian, but in Hindi, he said, Tere. And we all said, what happened? He sounded like Amresh Puri to me. And then he said, Mere oni wali bahu ko bulao. And we're like, what?
Oh.
And my mother is looking at my father is looking at my mother. And he made Sarita and me fall at their feet and take their blessings. So my father's like, yeah, Pa, I was going to tell you. He's like, hey, I am your father, man. I know you, what is happening before you can even think of telling me. I can see the look in their eyes. They're madly in love. We have all my blessings. So get married. So that is a filmy thing that happened. But no, and thankfully, no bitter experience.
Okay. And so how did you enter films? Was it ambition that somewhere began to develop in you, or it was just pure accident?
I don't think that it was something that I'd verbalized in my mind. I don't think that it was something that I said I want to do and worked towards becoming an actor all my life. But I think somewhere going to the same job, taking the same road, being with the same people to earn my bread and butter was not an appealing idea to me at all. So I knew, for instance, what I didn't want to do, which is I didn't want to do a job for 25 years in the same company and meet the same people. I had the privilege of being an exchange student and traveling to Canada when I was in the 11th standard, and I had my fingers in so many pies in terms of extracurricular activities. So I had always had the desire to keep traveling and moving and being with different people and understanding cultures. That had been a passion for me and still is. So I knew engineering wasn't my field. Although as a subject, it entices me even now. I'm a huge engineering fan. But I also knew that it is not my profession. So the exact opposite of the spectrum of a mundane desk job dealing was the film industry, where every third month you were dealing with a different set of people. You're in a different place. You're in a different culture. You were
Being a
romancing
different person.
Character, and that is exactly what the doctor had ordered for me. In fact, God made me to be an actor, is what I feel. So all my life experiences before I became an actor, for instance, living in Jamshedpur, having that experience in Canada with cowboys where I stayed for a year, then going to Kolhapur or to Maharashtra, and then my defense NCC experiences, my life as a teacher, all these things were somehow unconsciously preparing me for a life of being an actor. So when I went to Bombay to teach, one of the things, of course, is that you're all enamored by Bollywood and the film industry, right? So I, of course, used to watch shootings as they took place in and around my house, and peep to see who's acting and how they're acting. It used to be a crazy thing. But suddenly one day, somebody offered me I was teaching in Bombay at that time. I had my own classes on public speaking and communication skills, and I remember somebody offering me a job for a television love story. And I was like, hey, I'm not an actor. I don't know how to act and stuff. But he said, no, you should give it a shot. And he wanted me to play a convict on a love story called the Yule Love Stories at that time. And I agreed, only because the money was good. He was offering me some $3,000 in a day. So in my mind, I was calculating, oh my God, it's a great job. If I'm getting $3,000 a day, so if I shoot for 10 days, it's $30,000. And for 1 month, if I shoot every day, it's 1 lakh. Like that's more than what my parents made, together for 5 months or whatever. That's the calculation.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. I'd already become super rich in my mind. It's only when those things started coming out and people started saying, oh, he's a good actor, or he's charming, or whatever the adjectives used to follow my work, I suddenly realized, oh my God, this is actually becoming serious. And then I had bigger people coming in inviting me for their projects, and suddenly I was the most visible guy on Indian TV at one point of time, with 6 or 7 series on air at the same time. There was Banegi Apni Baat, there was Tol Mol Ke Bol, there was Ghar Jawai, there was all sorts of things happening at the same. Seahawks, Raj Kahani, 1800 episodes on TV. So I had the good fortune of never having to go to an acting school or a directing school or studying under somebody or interning under somebody. It was just that God decided that, hey, I've decided that he should be an actor, and so this is what he should do. And basically took me to places and points that became pivotal in my life. And suddenly I'm sitting in front of you giving an interview. So really couldn't have chalked it out. Mm-hmm.
So you've done 5 films with Mani Ratnam. So you obviously
That's
share a very special rapport with him. How is the experience working with him? And do you feel a sense of possessiveness about him?
Oh, obviously. See, first of all, you don't expect to be called to do a Mani Ratnam film. In fact, the news came to me in Jamshedpur. That's another lucky thing. Yeah, Jamshedpur has been giving me some of the most luckiest news in my life. So I remember this. You want anecdotes? Here goes. I had become quite a star on television, and my friends were back home, and how all boys talk. So I had come back, and I had become quite a star in my society. My dad had made me meet all the officers and stuff. So my friends were like, hey dude, how's it happening? Not dude, at that time dude was not the word. Like, hey bhai, kaisa chal raha hai? What is happening? Pata na yaar, koi ladki ke sath affair hua ki nahi? वो उसके साथ हुआ कि नहीं affair, इसके साथ हुआ कि नहीं affair? मैंने कहा नहीं हुआ यार, मैं बकवा का बकवा हूँ. And he's like, chup boya, chhood nahi bole yaar. So they were very upset that I was not telling them about all the things that I was having fun with in Bombay, in their
opinion, in their eyes.
In their opinion. And I was like, it doesn't happen like that, man. I mean, you go to work, you come back. It's not what you read is not always true. But they didn't believe me. So they were quite upset. So they used to say, तू बड़ा आदमी हो गया यार, अब तो तुमको घूम के भी नहीं देखेगा, कुछ बताता भी नहीं है यार, तू मतलब अब तो तू सुभाष भाई के साथ पिक्चर करेगा यार, तू. They used to tell me, okay, and they used to call me. I'm Steven Spielberg speaking. Can we speak to Mr. Madhavan and all that? I'm like, wait, solid, mark my chart. So, I used to, still trying to convince them that there is nothing super exciting in the sense that they were expecting it. And so one afternoon, the phone rings at 1:30, and I pick up the phone, and there somebody says, hello, Mr. Madhavan. Yes. I said, please speak here. And Mr. Mani Ratnam wants to speak to you. So Mr. Mani Ratnam comes on the phone. He's like, hi, I'm Mani Ratnam. Can I speak to Madhavan? So I'm like, hey, if you're Mani Ratnam, bloody bastard, I'm a Superman. So I was thinking of my friend, and I actually banged the phone down and went back. And then it rang again. And then they said, hello, is this 245095, whatever? I said, yes. Can we speak to Mr. Madhavan? I said, yeah, haan, bol na be. So the other guy said, sir, 1 minute, sir, you're calling. And then he went into Tamil. Sir, na channel in the press, Madras talk is there. What I'm sharing is, sir, Mani sir press now. I said, nobody in Jamshedpur speaks that Tamil. He speaks Tamil, but that's Chennai Tamil, man. That was all alarm bells ringing. And suddenly I remembered I had actually given my phone number to Santosh Sivan, who wanted to, cast me in one of Mani Ratnam's movies. And it suddenly struck. And so Mani sir came on the line and he says, hello, Mani Ratnam. I said, hello, sir. I'm trying to change my voice now. I'm like, hello, Mani sir, this is Madhavan. He's like, hey, why did you call me a bastard and put the phone down? I'm like, sir. I'm very sorry. I thought it was somebody else. He started laughing. And he had arranged for tickets for me to fly from to go from Jamshedpur to Kolkata at that time, and take a flight to Chennai. And my huge adventure with cinema began with that one phone call. And so you never expect to get a phone call from Mani Ratnam. And even if you do, you don't expect him to cast you as a hero in your film. And even if you do, you don't expect a elitist team of A.R. Rahman, Mani Ratnam, P.C. Sriram, Shalini, the creme de la creme of the industry in the South at that time, to be the part of your first debut film. It cannot be engineered by any father in the film industry. It cannot be engineered by anybody in the film industry. It was just divine intervention, right? So I went and I did this movie, and it was a fuzzy experience for me because I could not for any moment grasp the gravitas of what was happening with me at all. It was like I was floating through my life. It was like I was having an out-of-body experience. I was like, are you serious? Are you actually sitting with Mani Ratnam? Is Mani Ratnam actually partying on your back? Every time. Yeah, I wasn't there. I was out. I have an out-of-body experience all the time. And the film released, and the film, they said in the beginning, was okay, and then it became a cult hit, and then it became a superstar. It made me a superstar at that time in Tamil Nadu. And so I just didn't know how to react. It was too overwhelming. And the next thing you know, Mani Ratnam is calling you for his next movie, and his next movie, and his next movie. And it's not a repetition of characters. They're all vastly different from one another. So it was like for 5 years, it was like I went to the best acting, directing, dialogue writing, editing, music school in the world,
The works.
and
Yeah.
in the works. And like I said, Rupa, it's very difficult for anybody to engineer a situation like that, right? It has to be divine. It has to be something that the Lord intended it for you. So, how do you expect all these people to get together and and train you for 5 years? And then I get to work with Mr. Kamal Hassan, with K. Balachandar, with A.R. Rahman. You name it. The gambit of supreme technology, culture, supreme artistic superiority that we have in the country today. I had the good fortune of working with. The next thing you know, you're working with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, with
Bachchan.
Raju
I was
Hirani,
in
with
fact,
Amir Khan.
yeah.
With
I was
Shah
going
Rukh.
to ask you. So what you feel when you look back and think, I've worked with all the stalwarts, the legends of cinema.
And not just that, we've been, Bollywood has been brutalized right now with all sorts of accusations, right? But I feel sad because I didn't face any of that. I just did my job. I didn't cheat anybody. I didn't disrespect anybody. If there was a situation which was unpleasant, then I would hold on to it till my self-esteem allowed me to. And then either do two of things. One is become a Bihari boy that I was, breaking my heart and break noses, or just walk away knowing that it is not a fight that I need to fight. And that has helped me entirely in my life, and just respecting individuals. So today, to have all these people are just a phone call away, and they talk to me with complete affection and love and respect. I don't see how, I have to be truthful to my experiences, right? So my experiences have been phenomenal. And if I have to call Amit ji or Shah Rukh sir or any one of these guys, it's just a phone call away, and they will always answer and message back. And it wasn't just lip service. So Mr. Bachchan quickly came and did a role in Ramji London Wale when I was nothing. I was just a new kid on the block with no parents, no legitimacy in terms of a filmy background. But he agreed immediately. He just saw the fact that I loved and adored him, and he agreed, and he didn't take money. So Kamal sir, all of these people, anybody I would call, they would do that. So I don't know what it is that endeared me to them, but I do know that I was a fan, and I think they would see a sincerity in me, in the way I approached them. There was probably a reflection of the kind of education that I had been subjected to. So maybe that was comforting for them. But I don't know why Raju Hirani called me. I do not know why Amir put me in Rang De Basanti. I don't know why Mani Ratnam called me in the first place. I'm just, it's just no explanations.
Yeah, sometimes it's the universe which conspires to make things happen. And of course, because you are who you are, I'm sure you've charmed your way into people's hearts. And so that's really nice. I'm going to ask you some quick questions like,
Sure.
What do you think is your biggest achievement?
My son.
And professionally?
I think having the ability to do the very different kind of roles that I've managed to pull off and convince the audiences, that I think has to be one of my biggest achievements, because it's very difficult to convince somebody that you're also a pilot, and you're also a cook, and you're also a Manu doctor in Tandu Veg Manu, and you're also a boxer. And so I think the gambit of roles that I have done, fearlessly, biting into the characters and just digging my teeth and my claws in, and not having to fall on my face with bad reviews. I think that's my biggest achievement to date.
Which is the role which is closest to your heart or special for some reason?
Without any reason, without any doubt, it's with the one film that I've just done right now called Rockery, where I'm playing a rocket scientist by the name of Mr. Nambi Narayanan. It's his biopic. And I think that is and will be one of my biggest achievements in my life.
And which has been the most challenging scene that you've had to enact? Anything comes to mind?
Yeah, all the intimate scenes that I have to do with my heroines, especially the kissing scenes, they're not something that I enjoy.
Who are your closest friends? Like the 3M friend from the industry?
Well, I have Raj Kundra, Rohit Roy, these guys who have, we've grown into the industry with, and those people. In the Tamil industry, there is Surya that I can talk to at any time. But I am not the 3M kind of guy. too egoistic to actually. Here's a secret. I'm too egoistic to call somebody at 3 a.m. For anything, man. I'm. I'll wait for a decent time to sort out any issue.
Okay. And which actor or which role has inspired you the most?
Of mine,
No, others. Any other
I think.
actor or any other?
Yeah, I think Nayakan, Kamal Sir's Nayakan has been a great, motivator for me. One of the reasons I understood and fell in love with the film industry was that movie by Kamal Hassan sir and Mani sir.
What's your biggest fear?
Oh, you know what? Being in a place when I know the welcome is done with. So basically, what I mean is, I don't want to be doing movies or anything when I have built a big hype in my mind, but the others are seeing that I'm falling flat. I want to retire before that. I want to retire with like what Dhoni does. He's a rock star. He will walk out like an emperor. I want to walk out like an emperor. The fear is not being able to do that.
And what's your biggest regret? Any regrets? Maybe none.
Not really.
Any role that you gave up and then you later felt that?
No, I'm telling you, I'm God's own child. Yeah, he's been. Oh yeah, there are lots of roles. I was supposed to do Gajini in Tamil, but I didn't like the story at that time, and I still maintain that I didn't like the story too much. So a couple of roles that I've rejected that have become big hits, but mostly the ones that I've rejected haven't actually worked.
Okay, and when the arc lights are off and there is no paparazzi and no cameras, what is Madhavan like at home, away from the games?
I am such a home bird. I'm not the party kind of guy at all. I mean, people, you want to keep testing yourself to see if you still got it by going to the party and seeing how many people notice you and what happens. But for me, even that's become boring. I've come to a stage where I'm very confident about what I've become. And so for me, being at home, doing the research, if I'm doing a movie, I would like to get completely engrossed into it. If I'm doing a web series, then I would like to completely get into the character and do the research. The research keeps me out of mischief. It keeps me out of the bottle and all the vices that are there in the industry. The fact that I play golf and the fact that I have varied interests in life that I pursue with missionary zeal is something that has helped me broaden the kind of gambit of roles that I'm able to take up convincingly. So for me, research is my best friend, and after that, just sitting at home and being a stupid old man who everybody in the family laughs at is something that I enjoy doing. My family and my wife think that I'm a very funny man, so that's the place I like to be in.
Okay, and you speak several languages. You've acted in ads, television, movies, web series. You've been on a student exchange program. You've been an NCC cadet. You've had experiences that most of us can only dream of. So what does Madhavan dream of? And what's on your bucket list? What else is left?
Oh, so yes, you're right, Rupa. I've had the good fortune of living 7 lifetimes in this one life already. Most people would experience the kind of things I do maybe in 8 or 9 lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I've been privileged enough to, be it seeing the Aurora Borealis and going for branding the cows in Canada, or for, learning how 7.62 rifle works and how to negotiate terrorism in England, or, basically teaching all these, and just not fleeting experiences, in-depth ones, and not knowing that there is an end point to it. So when I was in NCC, there wasn't an end point. I didn't know how it was going to end, but I was into it. So when I was in Canada, there was an end point. I mean, I was coming back after a year, but there wasn't it's the beauty is that it's been 30, I went in 89. So it's close to 31 years, and I'm still in touch with the families. I'm still going to their weddings, and I'm still, it's amazing the kind of connections I made. Thanks to Rotary, that was extraordinary, right? So I think I mean that gambit of experiences is what is making me who I am right now. I just don't know how else to answer that question.
So what's on your bucket list? What do you want to do? What's left to do?
Whatever I've done till now, I want to do 2 times more of that.
Oh,
So
wow.
I want to go, I want to go biking around the world, like how Pia Bahadur does. And hats off to some of the great achievers from Jamshedpur. I don't know if you know about this guy called Sanjay Upadhyay, who's a Supreme Court environmentalist lawyer, beautiful singer. I mean, there are some amazing talents from Jamshedpur. Of course, we've heard about Imtiaz and me and
Of course.
Simon and all the people. But for my bucket list is to just God has made an extraordinary world, and He wants people to respect and enjoy it. So I love respect, and I love and respect nature, and I want to go and be in every corner. I want to taste the salt in the sulfur lakes. I want to make sure that I go to the corners of the world possible. If tomorrow, tourism or a visit to Mars is possible, I want to do that. I want to grab every bit of life with all my fangs and my claws and my teeth and experience it.
Wow, that's really something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is now, what are the projects that we should look forward to?
I think the biggest project that you should look forward to right now is Rockery. Yeah, that's something that I've sunk everything I know into, including my money. So I will know how that turns out. But it became a passion project, not because I wanted to make a movie. It's because I wanted to tell a story of a man that this country should know about. It's a national disservice not to know about Mr. Nambi Narayanan, right now Padma Bhushan Nambi Narayanan, and I'm very privileged to bring his story to the world.
So, any message for fellow Jamshedpurians?
Yeah, I said, hey, you know what? You have a lovely city, and I think over a period of time, we need to bring the city back to the glory that it used to be in terms of a place for children to grow up. I think the schools are fantastic. The teachers are fantastic. I think that in some way we can make Jamshedpur an exemplary city around the world. The only problem is it's a floating population, but you all should realize how privileged you are to be there. Make it a point to make it, like when we were there used to be there is, I'm sure even now, the Madrasi Samilni, the Maharashtra Mandal, every culture had its own clubs, and we used to visit every one of them. The Durga Pujas was something that I used to enjoy going to. The Holi was something that we enjoyed playing. The Diwali parties and everything. That was something that I thought was fantastic about Jamshedpur. And I hope that people will pull their heads out of the iPads and iPhones and go out actually and interact and, we had a game. I don't know if people my age would know. So we used to call the Chakka tire game. We used to have the scooter tires. Nobody in the world seems to know. No, we used to have wars. So when the electricity used to go off, like inside the D in KFO flats, 2 teams, and we used to take these scooter tires and attack the tires. So the idea was to see who was the last man standing with his tires still moving.
Yes.
Right? So that was, I don't know if people remember that game. It was
It's funny how even these games bind us together.
Yes.
It's really amazing.
Yeah. Patangodana, Manja Banana, all that is there to other cities as well. But this Chakka and this tire game, I've never seen. And we used to actually fight for proper scooter tires. People had thick tires, thin tires. And it would be like attack, go and ramping at each other, and then, hit the tire with a stick and, maneuver it. I've never seen that game being played anywhere else. So yeah, I wish that would be. I wish my son could play those games. I really wish he could spend time with my domestic help and understand how those people and what makes them tick. I had the privilege of knowing them all, and they have been very instrumental in making me the kind of actor I am today. So yeah, Jamshedpur provides you with the best experiences. You should go out and experience it.
Yeah. So with that, I think it's time. You spent a lot more time than we had planned for, and it's only because you made it so interesting. I lost track of time, and I walked down memory lane with you. This was so enjoyable, Madhavan. I really had a great time. And before we go, I want you to know that we Jamshedpurians are supremely proud of you, and we're always rooting for you. We wish you tremendous success in all your forthcoming projects. Get lots of critical acclaim and commercial success, and of course, all the very best for your directorial debut, Rocketry, The Nambi Effect. We're really looking forward to watching that. And a big thank you to Sonalika Mukherjee and your sister Devika, who made this conversation possible. Without them, we would never managed to, reach out to you. So very, very, very big thank you. And like they say in filmy style, it's back up.
Thank you, Rupa, for the kindest words. Lovely talking to you. Please give my regards to everybody in your family and take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was fun, wasn't it? But रुकिए, आप कहाँ चले? एक बात तो रह ही गई. I want to introduce you to some सुने अनसुने नाम, कुछ देखे अनदेखे चेहरे.
ये सीजन है त्योहारों का, गुलाब जामुन और रसगुल्लों का.
फ्रेंड्स और फैमिली से ये मौसम है मुलाकातों का.
गिले शिकवे भुलाकर रिश्ते मजबूत बनाने का.
ये वक्त है for fun, laughter and मस्ती.
Celebrate relationships and दोस्ती.
ये टाइम है कुछ गपशप और गाने बजाने का.
आप सबको खुशियाँ बांटने का.
From all of us at Jampot Adda, here's wishing you
Happy
Diwali. Start.
I was also
रुक जा वापस wait.
हाँ, ready?
जो बोलना है बोलो मोटा मोटी. ठीक है चलो.
Okay, we'll do this in speaker view and then we will do this in gallery view also. Same thing. Okay.
So now is speaker view.
Speaker view.
ज़्यादा हो गया. नहीं
बहुत
It's
ही
going very slow, I think, the wish.
How should we wish it? What should the speed
Like-
be?
थोड़ी नहीं है.
मैं अमीर खान ही बन जाता हूँ. जी हाँ. Happy Diwali.
ये जगह सिंक्रोनाइज करना पड़ेगा थोड़ा.
Let's practice it. अभी recording बंद कर दे.
Still not there.
तो सही है, जिसका टैलेंट है वो गाना नहीं जाता, जिसका टैलेंट बेसुरा है वो इतना गा रहा है. तो you never.
हैप्पी वाला दिवाली.
अब सबको दिवाली की शुभकामनाएं.
Happy Diwali.
A happy and prosperous Diwali to each one of you.
Happy Diwali and wish you a very prosperous new year.
Have a safe Diwali.
शुभ दीपावली.